everybody. Once again, I'm Liam Crafton Jr., aka Zorwell John, Less Than Guru. And today I would like to talk about my occupation for first edition Palladium, the Beloved. And I don't have it as Beloved. And I mentioned this in my previous general category of my clergy, of why I chose this name. And I moved away from the witch name, and it fits my mythology of my world, but it is just very similar to the witch from Palladium First Edition. So their power is granted by a devil. I do not have a difference, or I don't have demon lords and devil lords. In my mythology, the infernal powers are devil lords, and they have fallen angels under them, which are devils, greater and lesser devils, and then kind of the non-sentient animals of hell or of the infernals. That's what demons are. And some of them can be pretty smart, but they don't have that fallen angel aspect, which creates the devils. So my mythology is very, very different than the Palladium mythology, and that's why a lot of my terms have changed, or I got rid of the demons, was to fit my own world's mythology, of my world that I've been playing for decades under, even though my Palladium rewrite is recent. Within the last couple of years I've been working on it. So the first major difference is I removed all the different packs. There were like 3 or 4 different packs that Palladium offered, and for my Beloved, it's the one pack. It's to get things simplified, and I just call it the Soul Pack. But these 7 things are really close to, I believe it's the life and soul of the biggest one that required the most things. That is what the Beloved sign in my game. So they have to have complete and total loyalty and obedience to the Devil Lord. They have to serve the master and his plans. They accept no other deity as your master, but they often pretend to do so in order to hide their powers. They do not interfere with the priest, brethren, and minions loyal to the Devil Lord. So if you know somebody else is a priest, another Beloved, minion, it's more of a let them do their thing, I'll do my thing. We don't have to be friends, but their thing is bad can happen if they interfere with that other person. They have to further the Devil's Lord goals whenever possible. The bearer, father, or child in the name of the Devil Lord, giving all rights of parentage to the Devil Lord. That's something that, depending on you and your group, you might, even in Palladium, if that's a topic you don't want to get into, you don't want to have it done, just erase it. That's fine. And then destroy a foe of the Devil Lord. I think the one that it might not have here is that was specific was like start a temple or religion or a church of the Devil Lord, but that kind of goes along with furthering the Devil Lord's goal and complete and total loyalty. If your Devil Lord says, hey, you do this, you do it. Now, while they have to have all of these strict rules, within these rules, they can do things as they want. They don't necessarily, and the Devil Lord isn't necessarily going to take the time to give them a detailed blueprint, because they don't care. They're going to get the soul anyway. So they're going to say, here's your objective, and step away. And then it's up to the Beloved to fulfill that objective however they see fit. And that's why the Beloved feel that they're loved, because they don't have to, they're not tied to all these rites, dogma, rituals, way of doing things. They get to choose how they're not micromanaged. So attribute requirements, same as Palladium game, IQ 5, basically smart enough to be able to put your name read and put your name at this soul pack, because that is something that kind of liked, is the devils are still we'll give you everything that we guaranteed, you keep your thing. So it is you need to read this. They're not going to have them sign a deed to the house and then laugh and the illusion fades and it's this soul pact that they got you to sign. The part of the way that they're able to take divine power, holy power, and twist it into unholy power is to make sure that those who gain their powers know what's going on and are doing it willingly. Um, so that's why the IQ of 5 is needed. Alignment, you can only be evil if you worship a devil. Just flat out. So it's not D&D warlocks where you can still kind of be good. We have good little um, lords that you can, or halfway decent lords that you get your power from. No, you are choosing an evil path. You are going to be evil. You might not realize it. You might want to put aberrant there or miscreant and show that every once in a while. And definitely out in the open, you're going to pretend to be somebody else. You're not going to be pretending to be a servant of a devil lord that would get you uh, taken out rather quickly by local authorities, local adventuring groups, etc. But you hide that. Restrictions. Other clergy occupations are only allowed if the beloved's devil lord allows it. So, while other occupations can say you're a paladin and you want to become a priest, you could be under a different deity if they allow it. This one, you have to get permission from the devil lord to go into another clergy occupation, and you still have to follow your soul pack so you don't get out of your soul pack for that. Occupational skills as they get infernal prayer invocations, even though it's both, everything's magic in Palladium, and I have it where the effects are the same and terminology is the same. It's the same save verses, but it's save versus spells slash prayers, because they're not actually casting and manipulating magic to make a spell. They're beseeching a higher power, so they're invoking a prayer. So it's words. I understand it, but I wanted to express that in game, so that's why I have it as being infernal prayer invocation instead of saying spell magic. Mystic combat, they have their own mystic combat, hand-to-hand combat. They can choose thief. And then special ability is they choose one, which I think is really similar from Palladium, where it's like, here's a list of things, you just choose one of them that you can do. Let's look at the level chart. So level 1 is always gaining your skills, your elective and secondary skills. At level 2, you get a demonic familiar link. Level 3 and 4, you get more skills. 5, you can start summoning lesser devils and demons, and that's any demons. Demons, again, as I stated, are the kind of the animals or the non-fallen angels of hell, the infernal powers, where devils are fallen angels. At level 6, they get a couple more additional magic points. At level 7, they get an additional special ability, which I think that might be new, and it might be because I had this nice list, and sometimes the player is like, oh, do I choose this or do I choose this? Ooh. So it gives them another choice, and it's filling out the list. As I said, the level attainment, the level chart was to get everybody something, even if it's just a couple of points in magic or hit points or shock points or something every level. Level 8, they choose the more elective skills. Level 9, they regenerate at 4 magic points per level. Now, if you've been watching these, you'll notice that this is a little different. Most of the time at level 5, the increase for either magic points or ISP goes from the base of 2 to a 3, and then at level 9, it goes up to 4. This one, the Devil Lord is also going to test you to see how loyal you are. So in mechanics, that's you're gonna be regenerating 2, so your magic is not gonna get that boost that everybody else got. But if you get past it to level 9, then you'll be back on par with everybody else at the 4 magic points per hour. And then level 10, choose secondary skills, more magic points, elective skills, magic points regenerated at 5, an additional special ability, and then additional magic points at level 15. Elective, and secondary skills, the same as in Palladium. Elective skills, this list is what you're allowed to choose from and nothing else, just from this list. Secondary skills, you can choose any secondary skills. These are the ones that allow you to get bonuses. I already see another edit thing. I need to close my parentheses there. So, healing abilities. So, heal self doesn't have a level on it, so you get it first level 4 times per day. The beloved can heal themselves, their heal base plus their levels, and that can be hit point or shock point damage, and it resets at sunset. So my reset is my answering the question of when it says per day, what does that mean? Does that mean 24 hours? Does that mean at midnight? That means you take a rest. So if you did 2 rests in a day, you get it back twice or whatever. It's just sunset is symbolic for bad, dark things coming out, evil things. So at sunset, that ability resets to the 4. So if you've only used it 1 or none, nothing happens, or you only gain 1 of them back, but it resets at sunset. And the heal base, I explained that previously why I have a heal base. It's basically because as you advance levels and more healthy adventurers take longer to heal, that doesn't make sense to me. This heal base has completely fixed that issue in my games. Magic points, you get your mental affinity times 2 mental affinity. Why? Because that's your conviction. It's not just charisma, but it's also your confidence. And you need to be confident in your Devil Lord and in your soul pact. That's what powers you. So that's why that's also MA mental affinity times 2 plus 30. And then every level, including level 1, you roll a d6 and add it to it. And that gives you a nice base points that you can invoke your prayers that you have quite decently. And it's not just a 1 or 2 prayers and then you're done for the day. If you cast low level or invoke low level prayers, low level spells at low levels, then you can do quite a bit. And it also balances out. It can cast 20 spells of legend or 20 first level spells, no difference, without having the extreme amounts of PPE needed in their PPE system, because in the second edition they assume ley lines, and I don't see like it. Prayer acquisition, there's a chart that is later which show how many, just like Palladium. Level 1, you gain so many level 1 spells. Just call them prayers. They're exactly the same as spells. And level 2, you can choose from level 1 and 2. 3, you can choose from levels 1 through 3, etc. It's exactly the same. So special abilities, those are kind of from Palladium First Edition, but I give it at various levels. Instead of at level 1, you get one, and then you don't get one afterwards. I have it at level 1, level 7, and level 14. And no magic points is used. That's why there's special abilities and not prayers or anything. It's because they don't need magic points. And I did, going back to magic points in my clergy, I did for a while think about calling them divine points, but it's one of those things. 6 or half a dozen terminologies, you might see me as hypocritical saying, oh, make sure that they're calling them prayers and not spells, but they use magic points and not divine points. It's just one of those things where I felt a little more strongly in one, and I thought it would be easier when you're actually tracking stuff. One's fluff, one's mechanics. That's where I drew my line. Feel free to draw your line wherever, or don't have a line at all. Special abilities. So let's go down to that. Command Dead. They gain the ability exactly like the Animate Control Dead spell. Command Rats. They can summon and control nearby rats up to 6 per level. And I might have did 6 instead of like a random. So there might be some adjustments if you take this and you look at Palladium First Edition. I did a lot of tweaking and adjustments. Invulnerable to fire, mystical, or mundane do no damage to the beloved. So being mystical, that's talking about psychic power, divine power, fire. dragon fire, any type of fire whatsoever, you are impervious to, invulnerable to poison. Vulnerable to all poison, doesn't affect you. Knowledge, plus 10 to all skills, which in Palladium can be significant when you're starting off really low. A lot of their skills will start off with an 8%, a 10%, an 18%. So a 10% can be good. Plus, I allow things to go over 99, 98%. And I talked about that in my skills video. Or telekinesis, you can lift one object up to 500 pounds or multiple objects up to 100. Total objects can be hurled as missile weapons. This is pretty similar to, I think they might have had some ambiguous wording in it, because I remember going over this with one of my players and them all of a sudden saying, what about in this condition? What about in this situation? What about in this situation? So I might have broken it up a little and defined it a little bit differently. Demonic familiar, Link, second level. You are given either a lesser devil or a demon familiar as a familiar. So it's very similar to Palladium. Like I explained, my demons or devils are different than Palladium demons and devils. So the benevolent familiar can communicate telepathically. The familiar can speak, but will not do so unless the beloved requests. The familiar is taking the form of a dog. Your dog probably doesn't want to talk. If your familiar is taking a form of a parrot, then you might allow your familiar to talk. So that kind of can be things. Or if you have a fox as a familiar and you want to fool your party members and make it seem like the fox is under some magical enchantment, you can tell your fox to talk, trick people or something. So basically, it's under control of the player. Number 3, the familiar obeys the beloved unless an order is contrary to the beloved's master's devil lord. So as long as you're going by your soul pact, it's happy to do things for you. All right. Even if it's not happy, it's required to do what you ask it to do. But if you say something contrary, then it can say no. Here, 4, the familiar takes the shape of an ordinary animal, usually one that represents its hellish nature. What I mean by that is like a say a demon dog is going to probably be some type of canine, whether it's a wolf or a dog or something like that, or say a infernal harpy, they're probably going to be a bird, but they can take a shape of an ordinary animal. And one of the things I specifically wanted to clarify is that the familiar retains all the abilities of mundane form, including fighting, so they usually choose an appropriate form that goes along with that. And number 5 is very important. A familiar can disguise its supernatural nature and will appear as a normal animal with a mystic essence, as with any familiar. And this will get by sensing supernatural evil. Devils and demons, one of their ways of power and trickery and stuff is that they're able to disguise their nature. Otherwise, anybody with sense good and evil or supernatural good and evil would be able to look at it and say, okay, this thing is fishy. So let's look more into it. This alleviates that type of thing. The beloved gains an additional 20 hit points, but if the familiar dies, the beloved loses 30 hit points permanently. So the 20 that they gain plus the 10 extras permanently. So this is something that they won't necessarily, while they might have their familiar help with fighting and stuff, they won't want their familiar to die, because then that hurts them greatly. And after that 2 years, a beloved who proves their worth may receive a lesser familiar equal to the 4th level spell. So then they're only going to get a normal animal. And then the familiar gains an additional 2 shot points per beloved level, just to kind of keep them somewhat improving along with the with And that's the normal familiar. My other familiars, the devils and stuff, get different ones based off of what type of familiar they are. At 7, the demonic familiar will retain its mundane form unless directed to do otherwise by the beloved, or it dies, in which time it reverts to its original form and then surprises everybody. um, at level 5, they get summoned lesser devils and demons, and this might have been one that I changed what level this was available, or I might have changed something with skills. I can't remember, but it was an ability that was given. I just put it into the level chart where I felt appropriate, or I kept it because the 5th level does sound familiar. One level lesser devil or demon of any type are summoned to obey the beloved in the name of the devil lord. It can be attempted once, but resets both at noon and midnight. So basically, twice per day you can attempt it. The beloved must have a demonic familiar for this to work. So they would at least, well, of course, they would have to be 2nd level. But if they lost that familiar and or gained that lesser familiar after 2 years without a familiar, they would not be able. So that's another thing of why they would want to keep that original familiar from dying, is because that is what this power is based off of. And they can have a infernal entourage up to 1 demon or devil at levels 5, 8, 11, and 14. So they start off with 1, and then by 14th level, they could have their demonic familiar, as well as 1, 2, 3, 4. So they could have 5 demonic familiars. And if you're going around with 5 demonic, or 1 familiar and 5 summon beings, and they're all in their infernal forms, their demon or devil form, then that's going to be obvious what you are. Summoning requires the beloved to be in mystic stance, but after summoning, it's not required. I have my various stances. And then it lasts until dismissed or slain. So once you summon it, they don't go away after a while until you say you can go away, or they're slain. The more times they're slain, the more times your devil lord probably is going to start sending somebody to say, hey, watch out. You're kind of stretching this pact, allowing all my minions to be killed off. And then the success is just flat 50-50. They can try it in a day. They get 2 attempts. So hopefully they get that 50%. If not, wait till tomorrow. So that is my beloved. How it's very similar, but not exactly like the Witch in Palladium First Edition. Having said that, once again, I'm Liam Crafton Jr., aka Zorval John Less Than Guru, and until next time, I will catch you later.